Season's greetings, you sexy mother hubbards. It's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Mail, eco-activist King's Green Christmas Day message? Eco-activist King. Right. It's very clever, this, linguistically. More so than you would normally expect from the Mail. Like, what they're doing here is they're calling the King an eco-activist. Now, that wouldn't bother me at all in the slightest. You know, I would probably be an eco-activist by this point, were I not anchored, saddled with responsibilities in the form of a mortgage and children and, you know, a girlfriend and my job, and it's hard for me to get out to protests and chain myself to the Barclays building or whatever. But to some subsets of Mail readers, I'm sure eco-activist borders on a slur. And for such a handbook of royalist conservatism, this is interesting. There's this sort of almost subtweet broadside going on here, like, oh yeah, the King is an eco-activist. Now, is that better or worse than expert? Like, I can't keep up, guys. Over to the Sunday Times, which channels Mone's latest moan. She says, I've been treated like Pablo Escobar. This is because she's had her bank accounts frozen for almost a year because she's being investigated by the NCA, which is basically our equivalent of the FBI. Which sort of makes a complaint like this sound utterly ridiculous. Because it's like, yeah, like, the CIA and the FBI, they were very interested in Pablo Escobar, so they pursued him for his criminal activity. The NCA are very interested in your corruption and criminal activity. That's why they're pursuing you. I'm not sure if it was me, I would draw attention to the parallel there. Oh, I can't believe I'm being treated like a criminal when all I did was illegally lobby, lie about my role at PPE MedPro, threaten to sue journalists for exposing it, and milked 60 million that should have gone on working PPE. Oh, it's so unfair. Also on the Times, Reform's cast iron pledge to fight the Tories. Yeah, I'm not sure that's worth the paper or newspaper that it's written on, to be honest, lads. Because Reform is headed up by Richard Tice, who previously headed up the Brexit Party, who previously promised to fight the Tories in every seat. Then last minute, just before the GE, they cut a dirty backroom deal with one Boris Johnson. Do you remember that? It's the candidates that I feel sorry for most, you know? Because they lead them up the garden path. These people resign from their jobs. They commit to fighting the GE for 3 months of interviews and leafleting. Only for, like, right at the last minute, Tice and Farage are like, yeah, no, change your plan, guys. Yeah, stand down. I suppose in a way it's the sort of GE equivalent of Farage's Brexit march on Westminster, which he almost immediately left himself. Over to the Sun now, with TV Jess dumps Love Rat pennant. What? Yeah, it's a load of rubbish, isn't it? Let's move on to the Express. Don't let Scrooges drag you down, so says one Jeremy Hunt. Says, in an upbeat, festive message, the Chancellor says Britain has finally turned the corner. This might be my favourite headline of the bunch today, you know? Like, it should win an award. It's got everything. It's got sort of fantasy and delusion over here. A lot of people like fantasy, you know, at Christmas time. I don't want to, you know, ruin anyone's childhood, but there's a heavy fantasy element to Christmas, so it's got that. It's got your sort of Team Blue loyalty above all costs. You know what? This is what the Chancellor of the Conservative Party in government is saying. No credible challenge to it whatsoever. They're not asking if there's any truth to the fact that we've turned a corner. How have we turned this corner? Which corner is it that we've turned? But best of all, most importantly, most embarrassingly, it serves as a complete misunderstanding of English literature. Don't let the Scrooges drag you down, guys. Who was Scrooge again? He was the rich guy, the wealthy guy, who people in need were asking him for help around Christmas time, and he was too mean-spirited and Tory to give a hoot. Now, who do we think most closely fits that description, guys? Is it the people out there who are struggling to make ends meet, with their mortgages exploding, their rents going up, their energy bills, getting their universal credit slashed, putting their children's gifts on credit cards, or taking out payday loans just so their kids have got something to open on Christmas Day morning? Desperate people, or multi-millionaire Jeremy Hunt, who is doing seemingly absolutely nothing to help them at Christmas time? Who most closely resembles Ebenezer Scrooge there, do you think? But still, don't let the Scrooges drag you down, guys, because Britain has finally turned the corner. I do wonder where they got that quote from. You know? Was it just Jeremy Hunt said that we had... It certainly wasn't the ONS, because the ONS said the other day, we've revised our figures and actually, yeah, we contracted over the last 3 months, and the previous 3 months was just like flat line. Nobody's turned the corner. The debt isn't down. We're not growing. This is what I mean, man, when I say I've gleaned more journalistic integrity from in-flight magazines written in the foreign language than from CCHQ's staff pamphlet, The Daily Express. Finally, over to Jimmy Dimley, who apparently made an off-colour joke to do with Rohypnol while at an official engagement. Which, look, a lot of people are going to be offended by the joke because it touches on sensitive issues, but for me it's more like you did that at work function when you're Home Secretary. Like, I'm offended by the stupidity